Hey there, Philip here, and today I want to talk about hardware. And specifically, I recently purchased a new MacBook for myself and for my, development. And this one replaced the old one that I had since 2020, so 5 years, I think. Yeah, it's 5 years. And that this one is M1 2020 MacBook Pro, 16 gigabytes RAM. The new one that I can't show you because it's in front of me is MacBook 16-inch. This is 13-inch, 16-inch, and it's an M4 with something like, I think it's possibly 38 gigabytes of RAM. So the reason I bought it was because I wanted a bigger screen. I often program on the go, and bigger screen is a big thing for me because you get more screen state. But also I wanted more RAM because apparently today when you work on something, you need a bunch of RAM. This one has 16 gigabytes. And that's apparently not enough. My ID started, screaming at me that it's not enough, especially if you have IDE, a bunch of other apps open, and many projects open at one time, which I do often. So these were the reasons. But I thought, okay, let's think about how faster M4 is over M1. Now, 5 years is quite a lot of time, I think. Like when I was at Google, we routinely changed our hardware like every 2 or 3 years, new MacBook every 2 or 3 years. And there was a significant jump. And often after 2 or 3 years, the old MacBook was actually pretty slow, because it was still in the time when things got faster pretty rapidly. These days, I was pretty happy until very recently with the M1. So I thought, well, okay, I would probably keep using it forever until, or maybe 1 or 2 more years, and I would still be happy with it if it wasn't for the RAM issue and if it wasn't for the fact that it's a 13-inch is bad when you're outside the office. Here I have a bigger screen. So I thought, okay, well, you obviously have all these benchmarks that can tell you which one is better. And in the benchmarks, I don't have them in front of me now, but hopefully I'll put them on the screen. M4 is clearly much faster, Geekbench and so on and so forth. But I don't like these benchmarks because they don't actually measure the kind of the experience of the developer or anyone else. They generally measure batch work, how faster it is to compile something, which you do when you're working with Flutter. You do this once in a while. Or exporting video or something like this. But that's generally something that you do on the background, or you do it and then you go grab a cup of coffee or something like this, right? So there's no real, it's nicer, obviously, if something takes 50 seconds instead of 70 seconds. But does it really change your experience? Not really. So I thought, okay, I will actually take imprecise but measurements of how faster things are that you actually do a lot of times per day. And so I have things like how much faster is hot reload, how much faster is hot restart, does it make a difference, and so on and so forth, right? So that's today's video. I want to have some caveats first, right? Again, I don't care really about batches. I care about things that you do and then you immediately want the result, right? I also think that there are categories of fastness, or that when you improve inside the category, it doesn't really make a big difference. But if you go from one category to another, it makes a difference. So the categories are a blink of an eye, and this is just my terminology, but something that takes a blink of an eye. If it's faster by 20 milliseconds, you don't care. If it's slower by 20 milliseconds, you don't care. So that's like things like hitting a button and immediately having some kind of result, right? Then there are sub-second things like hot reload, for example, is generally sub-second. And again, if something is sub-second, you probably don't care if it's like 100 milliseconds faster or slower. We'll get to that. And then there are things that take several seconds. This could be like, running an analysis for your whole project. That could be like, 5 seconds or 7 seconds. But again, you don't really care if it's one or either. Things are snappy or nice, but it's not like you are going to suddenly, because something is 2 seconds faster, you're not going to change your work habits, right? But on the other hand, if it changes the category, and so like you go from like dot analysis going from 5 seconds to 200 milliseconds, then yes, that will probably change how you work. You will definitely, you don't run data analysis normally, but yeah, like if you, for example, what else takes something like this? Well, if hot reload took a blink of an eye, then I'm sure it would change the way you work even a little bit, even though it would just be from 600 milliseconds to 50 milliseconds, which is a huge improvement. But like by milliseconds, it's not, by total amount or absolute amount, it's not a big change. But because it changes categories, it makes a big difference. I don't know if I'm making sense to you. I don't know if I'm explaining it well. But anyway, and then there's anything more. Like if you have something that takes a minute, then that's definitely a different feel, and then something that takes something like 6 seconds. And again, if you improve a minute by 10 seconds, you don't really care, right? You still get to sip the coffee. And so yeah, it's blink of an eye. I think it's good to kind of think of these categories as something that you do while this is happening, right? So blink of an eye, then something like moving a head is the sub-second category. Like you click hot reload, and then you move your head to look at what happens to your app. That's sub-second. Then several seconds is something like take a sip of coffee. That's that takes, and then you go back, but you don't stop thinking about the project. And then anything more is you actually go grab a new cup of coffee, or you start doing something else, or you go to Twitter. And that's a bad thing. You normally don't want to have anything in your day-to-day work that pushes you to this, because you lose context, you lose focus, and so on and so forth. All right. So again, I only really care about things that move between categories, right? So setup. I have this MacBook and this MacBook. Both of them have exactly the same environment, and this is because Apple makes it easy, actually very easy. I have to say that good job, Apple. that you, if you buy a new MacBook, you just either via Wi-Fi or Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt, you put them together, and it literally just like puts everything on the new computer, including everything, just like SSH, everything. So it was very nice to just basically switch from one computer to another and have everything exactly the same. And that also gave me the idea of trying to make the comparison, because it's literally the same computer except different devices. Right. So when I was running the tests, both were plugged in. That's a big difference. If you have a MacBook, especially unplugged, it will go to a mode that's much less fast. And I was working on the code base that I normally mostly work with for a long time, and that's Giant Robot Game, which is I just ran WC. It's 199,000 lines of code. So it's not huge, but it's not tiny, right? So that's the So I'll talk about stuff, and I'll show you the recordings that I have, right? I recorded on my phone, and so that I could time lapse or make things slower, so you can actually see the difference, right? So hot reload on M1, hot reload takes something like 500 milliseconds. At one point it was 620, then it went to like 430. But it's something like 500 milliseconds. On M4, it's more about like 200 milliseconds. So significant change, but not a change in category. It's still in the sub-second category. It's not a blink of an eye, like, less than 100 milliseconds. It is snappier. It feels snappier, but that's about it. It's not going to change your work, work in a significant way. Hot restart. I did not record hot restart because I thought of it too late. But I did do some measurements, and that's something like 650 milliseconds for M1 and something like 400 milliseconds for M4. So again, significant but not category changing improvement. Again, feels snappier, but yeah. All right, autocomplete was a surprise. I thought autocomplete would be faster, but it's on both devices. It's exactly the same. It's 1.1 seconds between touching the button and seeing the autocomplete. That is probably because my IDE IntelliJ has some debounce. Like it waits a little bit before actually running or showing you the autocomplete, which makes complete sense. You don't want to have autocomplete just like jump at you like every time you happen to click or to push a button. I think that's how I interpret it anyway. But so it's not a difference at all. If you sometimes you want to rerun the analyzer from the start, or if you open a new project or open a project after closing the IDE, Dart Analyzer needs to reanalyze everything, and so that's not something that you really run a lot. But still, I think it's nice to look at that. And there was a, I think, significant difference. M1 took 6.7 seconds, M4 took 2.9, so like almost 7 seconds to 3 seconds, twice as fast. Again, snappier, not life-changing. Then go to definition. That's something that you do a lot. actually, right? Command B on Mac. So that's what I ran. If when I tried it on internal things like a class that is defined in my code and used all around my my project, then it was basically immediate on both sides. So Dart Analyzer is, kind of like it has it in memory or whatever. So there was like no difference, but also it was just like very fast. It was blink of an eye. No issue there. But sometimes you want to see you go to a library that you're using. Like here I'm using obviously Flutter, and so I chose to look for uses. Actually, I'm talking about not about go to definition, that's fast. I'm talking about uses, like where is this class or function used from, which is very often something that you want to look at. So, that's what I was talking about until now. For internal and external, the same thing. If you go to definition, even in external, then it's immediate. But if you try to find usages in your project of a external class, then that apparently isn't cached anywhere. And so Analyzer needs to go through things, and it takes time. So for M1, this was 2.4 seconds. In M4, it was 1.6 seconds. Again, I think this is a big difference because you do this a lot, but not life-changing, right? Then running debug, I actually made a mistake. I ran, this is like basically Flutter run, right? So running Flutter run, I made a mistake, and I ran Flutter run on the old one, and it already had some things done from a previous run, while the new one didn't. So it actually won. The old one only took 31 seconds, and M4 took 45 seconds. But then when I reran on the new one, with things like pubget already done and stuff like this, it only took 18 seconds. So I think it's more fair to actually look at the second run, so that's an improvement of something like 13 seconds, right? So M1 took 31 seconds, M4 took 18 seconds. Unfortunately, I didn't record the next run because, again, I'm stupid. All right, and then last but not least, Buildrunner. Sometimes you want to run Buildrunner on your project, and I do have some Buildrunner there. So that's code generation. On M1, it took 29 seconds. On M4, it takes 21 seconds. So an improvement of 8 seconds, not nothing, but also, again, category stays the same because you have, you're not, yeah, you know what I mean. It's not like you get the 8 seconds back because you're probably either looking at something else by the time, or you have gone away to get, something to eat or drink or something. All right, so that's what I have. I don't want to talk too much more about this. Make your own judgment about this. I do think if I was only buying the M4 because of speed, I would be very disappointed, I think. I mean, it's way faster, but it's not life-changing, and I would be okay with this for another, I don't know how many years. That said, the increased size and the ability to have more things running at the same time is a big change for me. And also there are other things like, you know, integrated AI and better things for video editing like this one. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I appreciate this upgrade, but performance-wise, it's clearly faster, but not life-changingly so. All right, so that's it from me. Thanks for watching and see you next time.